Welcome back. After extensive criticism over profiling and civil rights violations, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio made a promise to the people of the Big Apple, and that was to reform stop and frisk. It was a big tenet of his election campaign. But after 9 months in office, people are asking if the mayor's lived up to his word. Community leaders say to a point. A report out by the American Civil Liberties Union shows the overall number of stops under the de Blasio administration has dropped. However, minorities are still being disproportionately targeted. This year, 55.4% of all stops in the city have been of African Americans. Now that's down, but it's down only 0.4% from last year. The number for Latinos is 30.2%. That's up about 1% from last year. And only 14.4% of the people stopped in the city this year have been white, though that is up more than 11% from 2013. And despite the numbers and criticism from over racial disparities, former New York Police Department Commissioner Ray Kelly told our Dominic Carter in an exclusive interview that he still stands behind that program. Dominic?
Well, Andrew, Ray Kelly took a lot of heat over stop and frisk, but he says, bottom line, it was effective. And it's one of the things that he's most proud of, and his relationship with communities of color. We talked in great detail, Andrew, about stop and frisk. And Kelly says the NYPD got caught up in a campaign for mayor. Commissioner, you were a strong supporter of stop and frisk. You and Mayor Bloomberg. And the crime is still coming down. But there's a perception. And perception, as we know, is very important in the world of politics. Crime is down, but there's a perception that things are returning to the old way of business. A mistake to pull back on stop and frisk?
Oh, well, that's a whole other issue. Let me just give you some of my thoughts on stop. It is not a panacea. It is not a cure-all by any means, but it is a tool that every police officer should have and does have throughout the country. It is based on a Supreme Court decision. It's based on statutes that exist throughout the country. I thought the decision in the case was very bad. If you read it, it calls out for an appeal, and it wasn't appealed, and it should have been. First of all, this litigation started in 1999, not recent, a long time ago, and I can give you a lot of details of it. But basically, the crux of the argument was that in order to determine racial profiling, you can use a census-based scheme or database, which makes no sense at all, because that means that, carried to its logical conclusion, half the stops would be female, because that's what census is made of. What we proposed, we being the police department, we proposed that we use a RAND Corporation study, which says that in order to tell if racial profiling is ongoing, you take the description given by the victims of violent crime of their perpetrators. In other words, the police are out of it, and take that as a percentage. Basically, 75% of the perpetrators of violent crime, 75% in New York City, are described as being African American. 53% of the people stopped historically are African American. So, there was some criticism. Some people used the term understop. That's not a good term, but it certainly comports to the people who will ultimately be victimized in this type of environment where this tool is withheld are communities of color. 97% of the shooting victims in New York City are Black or Latino. 90% of the murder victims are Black or Latino. Under the Bloomberg administration, there were 9,500 fewer murders than there were in the previous 12 years. And of course, the vast majority of victims, unfortunately, but historically, are people of color. So many lives were saved. The other thing I just want to point out is the numbers were high, 600 and something thousand. People thought that was an ordinarily high number. It amounts to less than one stop a week per patrol officer. Everything in New York City is bigger. We have 400,000 arrests a year, 500,000 summons. There's 23 million citizen contacts a year. So it showed a skewed view of what was going on the street. There was no jury trial, just one judge did it. And there's a lot of other aspects to it, but I think it's unfortunate that the tool is apparently not being used when some police officers think it should be used, because the ultimate loser in all of this are people, mostly people in communities of color.
Commissioner, I'm running out of time. 2 questions. I want to move as fast as I can. Longest serving police commissioner. You first served under Mayor Dinkins, also under Mayor Bloomberg. You then left after the first time, assigned to run the operations in Haiti. Then you worked for the federal government, head of the Customs Department with the feds, and then you came back to the NYPD. Is it possible that you might return to the NYPD for a 3rd time?
No, I doubt it, seriously. I'm very happy where I am. I'm happy with my accomplishments, and I'm ready for new adventure.
You served again as police commissioner twice. In your words, because we hear a lot written about you, we see a lot written about you, what was your biggest success? What are you most proud of, and what do you look back at?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think you need sort of the benefit of time before you can make that sort of determination. I think just as being a part of the Bloomberg administration, I think we're proud of the fact that crime has been driven down to record lows. We haven't had a successful terrorist attack here. I think we're acknowledged to have the most robust counterterrorism program of any city, probably anywhere. We had to do that because New York is the #1 target. So, and I would also say relations with the community. Contrary to what came out in the campaign and what you might read certain places, I think I had a very strong relationship with the communities of New York City.
No doubt about that.
I would say those sort of 3 C's: crime reduction, a counterterrorism program, and community relations.
So, Commissioner, just explain this to me as we are wrapping up here. And I've seen this before, but when police officers are in riot gear, why do officers, we saw this in Missouri, but why do officers sometime with their batons start beating on their shields? Is that training?
In some quarters, you see it sort of picked up. I think it's a form of intimidation, or they believe they're somehow going to make the crowd be more hesitant as far as taking action against them, that somehow they're going to influence them to do what the officers want. I'm not even certain if it is part of the training, but I've seen it done in places.
You told us yesterday you thought seriously about running for mayor, and also you felt it was a mistake to release the videotape. Just elaborate on those 2 one more time for me, Commissioner.
Well, as far as running for mayor, I just didn't think at the end of the day that it was the right thing for myself and my family. As far as releasing the video is concerned, I think you could be interpreted, and was interpreted, as an effort to, as they say, dirty up the victim or the person who was shot in a confrontation with the police, and that never plays well. And if in fact that information could have gotten out in a lot of different ways, but for the government to release it when they did, what number one, it was premature, but it was obviously, I think, done in an effort to show the reason perhaps for the confrontation, but then surprisingly said that the police officer involved did know about the confrontation in the store, didn't know about the alleged theft of cigars. So it's just very confusing, and it gets back to the point that you need legal advice, legal counsel in these types of situations. It appears to me that there was very little of that.
Dominic, and great job with the interview, as we were listening to Ray Kelly talking about stop and frisk, it dawned on me, this is part of his legacy too. I mean, he has a vested interest. I'm sure he believes that stop and frisk was beneficial to the city and helped the NYPD under his leadership, but it's also part and parcel with his legacy as commissioner of the NYPD.
Well, I think Ray Kelly, and this is just my opinion, remember his poll numbers about a year ago, when he was still police commissioner, in the black community were 66%. Those are unheard of numbers. Ray Kelly was a man without the cameras that would walk into churches all over the city every Sunday. Nice. and received a warm welcome. So I think he was in for a reality check, or a sad one, when he became an issue in the campaign for mayor, led by Mr. de Blasio, attacking Ray Kelly and attacking Stop and Frisk. But I have to tell you, and I have to be honest with all of you, I have not understood the strong value of, and we're looking at a younger Ray Kelly there under Mayor Jenkins, but I have not understood the strong value of Stop and Frisk until Ray Kelly, and I've been doing this for 30 years, until Ray Kelly said to me that 97% of the people shot in New York City are black and Latino, and 90% of the murder victims are black and Latino. That makes a very strong case for Stop and Frisk.
You know, the other point that I kept coming back to as we were listening to the interview, there are always going to be incidents involving the police that fall on racial lines and that hit rough spots with people and strike people's nerves. We saw it in Ferguson, we've seen it on Staten Island, we've seen it in other incidents around the city. The incidents are one thing, the response to the incident is something else. And that's a huge difference between the NYPD under Ray Kelly and under Bill Bratton than we saw in Ferguson or seen in other places.
No doubt about it. I will always give Ray Kelly credit because, again, I can tell you perspective of dealing with him privately. When he would call me up and say, listen, as I said yesterday, this is what he would literally say to me. I'm doing this event at the Apollo Theater. I'm bringing 1,000 cops up there, new recruits, whether they want to come or not. They're going to sit there and listen, and I want you to come moderate it for me. And I'd say, okay, I'm going to be diplomatic, Commissioner. And he would go, no, 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 no. I want you to tell them exactly how the black community feels about police officers. And he would be the first one sitting in the front row for the entire 2 hours. So, you know, he has earned the respect of New Yorkers, and he is a well-beloved figure in New York City, even despite Stop and Frisk.
And again, terrific job with that interview, Dominic. Thanks
Thank you
very much. We're going to take a break here on RFL. When we come back, some more politics. Congress may be in recess, but the debates continue. Can Obamacare actually help Democrats keep control of the Senate? And brace yourself, there is new talk of a government shutdown. We're going to get into both next.